Welcome to Justice and Scrubs, where we explore the intersection between the law and medicine. I want to give a public service message announcement at this particular point in time. Dr. Jeff just acquired a self-driving Tesla. So if you're on the roadways and you see him driving by, please pull over to the side of the road to reduce your risk of being involved in an accident. I'm joined by my host,
Dr. Jeff Michaelis.
And I'm attorney Richard Hastings. And today we have a very special program for you. Our guest is Carol Mora, who is going to talk to us today about her incredible story of resilience and courage in the face of unimaginable adversity. Before we dive in, it's important to remember that the information we provide is for informational purposes only. Every situation is unique, and decisions regarding your health or legal matters should be made after consulting with your own doctor or lawyer. Our aim is to inform and empower, but personal circumstances require personalized advice. We'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, findagreatattorney.com. If you or a loved one has been injured in an accident, finding the right lawyer can make all the difference in getting the compensation and support you deserve. That's where findagreatattorney.com comes in. They're a free lawyer referral service that connects accident and injury victims with the best attorneys in their area. With findagreatattorney.com, you can be confident that you're getting a highly qualified and experienced lawyer who will fight for your rights. The best part? Their service is completely free. So you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. If you're in need of legal assistance, head over to findagreatattorney.com and let them help you find one of the best lawyers in your area for your case.
Carol, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing this difficult story.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So, Carol, if we could, every one of us has some event in our life that we look back upon that was life-changing. And you had one such event in January several years ago. So could you please tell us about what happened on that particular day?
Sure. Well, I like to exercise early in the morning. And, this morning started like any other morning. And as I was driving to the gym, I was hit head-on by someone, a young male that was mentally ill and decided to commit suicide. He hit me at 95 miles per hour.
Carol, can you tell us about the nature of your injuries?
Yes, I have no memory of the accident. I came to and was confused, and when I was taken to the hospital, they told me that my injuries were severe. I was taken to Denver Hospital, and they said that my injuries were severe and that they could not treat me there due to the severity, and they transferred me to Yale Hospital.
And what were your injuries?
I had from a brain injury. I broke my right arm. I broke several ribs. I broke 3 vertebrae. My spine and my pelvic bone broke, detaching completely from my spine. I also broke my fibia, my tibia, and my 2 ankles. And my left ankle was completely destroyed.
I know you underwent a lot of surgeries. Can you go through your surgeries and also the recovery and how difficult it was?
Yes, I had to. Well, they did my arm and my ankle, and then I had to go. They had to fuse my spine, which was 4.5 hours. I couldn't stand up. I had to learn how to stand up, how to walk again. And it was difficult in the beginning, a lot of pain. But I was able to do it, with God's help. I have to say that I did physical therapy every day for 2.5 hours. And I was able to not get back to completely how I was, because I will never be how I was, but at least I can walk.
So, as I understand it, you had 4 different, what we refer to as open reduction internal fixation surgeries. One was they opened up your arm and they had to put in screws and plates in your arm to repair the break.
Yes.
You have a rod that goes from one side of your hip to the other. You
Yes.
have a rod that goes up your spine. And then they had to reconstruct your ankle.
They have not been able to reconstruct my ankle because it's destroyed. The doctor said that there is no shape. They were not able to give it shape. What I have to do is get an ankle replacement because I limp when I walk now.
And one of the interesting things that we had discussed is the fact that there is almost this suspension of disbelief when you go through an incident like this. And I don't think you realized how critically injured you were. And you told me that you were reading through your medical records after the fact, and it brought you to tears because you realized that you were on the verge of dying. So maybe you could talk to us a little bit about what that was like and what emotions that evoked and why.
Sure. When I was taken to the hospital, first it took them 45 minutes to take me out of the car. And when I was taken to the hospital, I am coming to and, going, I was unconscious and coming to. And I remember in the hospital, a doctor came in, and I remember the doctor was talking to me, but my brain couldn't grasp the information. Then when I was transferred to Yale Hospital, the doctor came and told me my injuries as well. But our brains are so amazing. I don't think that I grasped what he said. I just remember that the thing that I did not hear was that they never said to me, "You will never be able to walk." And that's all I remember. I remember him telling me things about my body. My brain couldn't grasp all the information. But when I went to see the doctor again, I read my medical record, and he said that I was in critical condition. And I asked him, I said, "Doctor, why did you put here that I was in critical condition?" And he said, "Ms. Mora, because you were almost dying." And when he said that, I think my brain finally understood the severity of what I went through. And I cried.
So your life as you knew it had completely changed as of that day. Your physical wellness and physical being had deteriorated greatly due to your injuries. There were a great deal of uncertainties that you were facing. I'm certain there was a great deal of anxiety, depression, and very, very dark times as you were in excruciating pain. Could you tell us what that was like and how you got through those dark days?
First, when one is in a small accident, I think I was in one years ago where the man didn't see me, and you feel confused because everything happened so fast and there were no injuries. But in this one, waking up with finding out that my world had been turned upside down completely, the level of confusion is extreme. I remember feeling lost. I didn't know what to do. I just wanted to cry and cry and cry. And there is a feeling of my person being violated. Somebody violated my person, my rights. Somebody did this to me. And there is no consolation. What did you do? Who did you talk to? Who did you call? What did you hold on to find peace, to find normalcy? It is very difficult. It is very confusing, and there is a lot of fear during those times.
And I remember early on you had told me that you were contacted while you were in the hospital, you were contacted by a private investigator. Could you tell us a little bit about what happened there?
Yes, in the middle of it all, I'm trying to make sense of what happened. And as I was in the hospital bed, my phone rang, and this man said, first he said, "I am sorry for what you went through." He said, "I am so and so, and I am a private investigator." I felt so lost. And he said, "I want to ask you some questions. Do you have? But if you are being represented, I will not be able to talk to you." And I said to him, "Yes, I have an attorney." And he said, "Okay." And he hung up. And I just felt so lost and confused. And I started to cry. And the nurse could see me through the camera, and she had to come in. I am sorry.
Take your time.
She had to come in and rub my back because I couldn't stop crying. Because I still couldn't understand what had happened. I had not caused the accident. I didn't have the full details of the accident. The police, of course, wouldn't talk to me, and nobody knew anything. So I was completely lost. I was in limbo. I just didn't know what to do.
And I think the important takeaway here is that insurance companies will do anything and everything to gain an advantage on a person being involved in an accident, even though the accident was caused by somebody else. So I think the point that I want to underscore here is that it is very, very important that you contact a lawyer as soon as possible, because otherwise you could make a very important mistake in saying something that's misconstrued or misrepresented. And this is exactly what you found out, that you're in the hospital, you were injured in an accident that was caused by somebody else, and you have a private investigator that's hired by the other insurance company to try to talk to you while you're in the hospital.
Yes.
Horrible.
Now, you tell us that you're in chronic pain. You have pain every day. And thank God you are looking great and walking pretty normally. So tell us about how that the chronic pain, you look normal, you walk normal, but you're in pain. So maybe people or your family members or coworkers don't realize that you're in pain because you look so normal. And what, you know, and do they expect more things for you? And some days you just can't work, or some days you just can't do everything. And how is it having chronic pain when you're looking so great?
Thank you. I will say that, you know, when I was in the hospital, our bodies are so beautiful, yet so complex. You would know about that. You're a doctor. But when I was in the hospital, you know, I was in medication with every day because I had to take it. But there were days when the medication wouldn't work. And I remember one time the pain was so severe, and the doctor came and I asked him, "Why am I in pain? Why is the medication not working?" And the doctor said exactly these words: "We don't know. All I can tell you is you will have good days and bad days." Now, I know it was right after the accident, but I was medicated and it wouldn't work. Now this is time after, and they told me you will be in pain for the rest of your life. And there are days, especially in the cold weather, when I am in a lot of pain. And there are times when, you know, my ankle hurts, my lower back hurts, and anybody that sees me at first, they may think that I look normal. But really, when I walk, I limp. If they were to see parts of my body, they will see the scars. And I don't complain much, but I'm in pain every day from the moment that I get up until the moment. The only times that I'm not in pain is when I'm sitting down or laying down. I have a hard time bending from my waist. I cannot lift heavy things. So it has changed. It has, this is my new normal. I take medication when the pain is severe to the point that I almost cannot walk. That's the only time. Most of the time, the pain now has become kind of my everyday normal.
We wanted to take a quick break to remind you about our sponsor, findagreatattorney.com. Dealing with the aftermath of an accident or injury can be overwhelming. And the last thing you want to worry about is finding the right lawyer. Findagreatattorney.com simplifies the process by connecting you with one of the top attorneys in your area who specializes in your specific type of case. Whether you've been injured in a car accident, suffered a slip and fall, or experienced medical malpractice, findagreatattorney.com has a network of experienced lawyers ready to help. And remember, their service is completely free, so you can focus on your recovery without worrying about the cost of legal representation. If you or someone you know needs legal assistance, don't hesitate to visit findagreatattorney.com and let them match you with one of the best lawyers in your area for your needs.
Yeah, but do people expect more for you because the casts are gone, the surgery's over, but the pain is still there?
And I do think that people do. You see me, anybody sees me, even after the accident, I had a cast, but I was in a wheelchair. And even the people that were doing physical therapy with me at the place didn't know. They were like, oh, you just broke your ankle. But once they found out my story, everybody thought, oh my God, these were their words, you look perfect. Nobody could tell that you went through that. And I think that for anybody that doesn't know me, or even the people that know me, they forget that.
They forget
that.
Right, and you don't forget.
Happened.
I'm sorry, you don't forget because the pain's there.
The pain is there, but people forget that I am not who I used to be. Now I have to do things slower. I cannot walk fast. Of course, I will never be able to run. But just making sometimes little moves, sideways like that when I'm walking, it just gives me that even a little more severe pain.
Yeah, I remember when I fell off a bicycle and I broke like 4 ribs. I looked normal and I couldn't work because I was in so much pain. And my kids thought, why am I not taking care of their everyday stuff? Why am I not cooking for them? Why am I not doing that? Because it hurt. And even though I looked normal, I was not normal. And that's a difficult thing for people with chronic pain.
I'll tell you that in the beginning, for the first maybe 3 months, you know how when we wake up in the mornings, we just spring out of bed? For me, it would take, depending on the day and the pain, it would take up to 30 minutes just to sit on the side of the bed.
Wow.
And now I wake up and I just get up and sit on the bed. But in those days, in the beginning, it was so difficult. And it is true, I had several ribs broken, then I had my spine fused, which created a lot of limitations. Still, I have the limitations. And but now I look back and I just think about how long it would take me to just sit on the side of the bed.
Well, you're doing great. Amazing, actually. Don't you think so, Richard?
I do, and I've known you before, during, and after this entire ordeal. And we have a mutual friend who is a Navy SEAL, and I am in awe of this gentleman. And the thing I find most amazing about him is his mental toughness. And you have exhibited many of those same characteristics in how you have dealt with your injuries and your pain. And I think it's important to share with our listeners the fact that two people experiencing an identical situation can react to it very, very differently. And your ability to persist and to push through and to persevere in times when things seem so very dark is such an admirable quality. And I want to just ask you about that. And you had a story that you had discussed with your doctor when you were first injured about physically what you could do and how long they told you would be in the hospital, and you contradicted them. And while you were in the rehabilitative care facility, what they told you, and you contradicted them. Could you tell us some of those stories?
I'm a person that I believe in God, number one. So I have my faith in God, and I knew that in moments that were very dark for me, I would get angry and I wanted to fight with God. But then at the same time, I had to recognize that I'm just like a speck of dust and He is bigger. And I would say, God, forgive me. I need you to touch me. When I first arrived to the rehabilitation facility, the head nurse came to my room and said, I am so sorry. I read your file. I am so sorry for what happened to you. And she said to me, as I'm sitting on the bed, she said, how long do you see yourself here? Now, my daughter had just turned 18 and she lives with me. So for her, this was a difficult time and she's crying. She was not allowed to visit me because we're still during COVID. And so she's feeling this. And I'm thinking about my daughter, and I said, I have to get out of this place. And I remember I said to the nurse, 2 weeks. And she said to me, oh, no. With the injuries that you have, we're talking about 6 weeks. And I looked at her. I didn't want to be irreverent or that I knew it all because I was really hurt. In my mind, I remember I looked at her, and in my mind I said, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And I am very strong mentally and emotionally. I mean, I did cry a lot. I allowed myself to be vulnerable in those days. But there is this mentality. I remember I had to use a walker to be able to get up from the bed. And I remember every single day when I put my hands on that walker to get out of bed, I would say to myself, Carol, we are going to build again. Because I had been working out for, many years. And when the accident happened, I was in the ICU for 6 days. So, of course, I lost all the muscle that I had built. I think I ended up leaving the hospital weighing 98 to 100 pounds. And of course, it was so difficult, and I couldn't put my left leg down. And I remember every day I would cry. I had feelings of anger, and then I would channel them, and I would say, Carol, we are going to build. And I remember saying, God, I'm not going to get angry. I'm going to cry because I feel sad, but I'm not going to get angry. But I know I will be able to go back to the gym, and I will build again. And one day I was in bed and the medication was just not working. And I was crying and my whole body. Now, one of the doctors said, bones don't hurt. And I don't want to contradict the doctor, but I think that they do hurt because I was in a lot of pain. Now, this is a doctor that he said, I've never broken a bone, so maybe he doesn't know, but I think that they do hurt. So I was in so much pain. I was laying in bed. And I remember there is a hand, a picture of a hand touching a finger. There is E.T., the movie E.T. has that, and then there is, I think, I believe it's Greek mythology. I don't know.
It's on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel.
Or maybe
Michelangelo's
or that
creation.
Roman. Oh, anyway, but the two fingers. And I remember thinking about that image. And I remember talking to God in my mind and saying, God, if you could always just extend your finger and touch me, just touch me a little bit. I was crying. The pain was so bad, it wouldn't go away. And I remember I closed my eyes and I said, God, just touch me, just a little bit. And I will tell you that I felt this heat throughout my whole body. and the pain started to subside. And it went away. And that's when I knew, and I said, I know God is with me. Now, he had been with me because I didn't die in this accident. The doctors in the medical records said that had they not done what they did, within 60 minutes, my health would have deteriorated. And I knew then that God was with me, but it was like he was making it real this time. And that was a big confirmation for me that he was with me.
Now, you've seen a lot of doctors, and you've had multiple medical teams, acute teams and chronic teams for therapy. Is there one doctor or one nurse or one team that you remember that helped you basically hold your hand through this, or did you really just get help from your belief in God?
Well, they were, I think because I was insisting in working, I wanted to go back to the gym, and the doctors were like, no, you're not ready yet. And so one doctor, and I had an older doctor and a younger doctor, and the older doctor said, this is several months after, he said, you cannot go to the gym. The older doctor said, yes, you can. The younger doctor, because he was the spine doctor, said, no, you cannot. And I was feeling in between. But they were encouraging in the sense of, they saw that I was trying. And every time that I saw them, they said, Miss Mora, you are doing very well. And one of them, they were always very, very supportive, both of them. But one of them said to me, every time I would go to see him, he would ask me and how I was doing. I would explain to him. I would tell him everything. And I think the most encouraging thing that he said to me, he said, Ms. Mora, you have a beautiful mind. And it is your mind that has brought you to where you are. They said to me, we have never seen a patient with this type of severe injuries heal so fast. Wow. And I think it's your mind that has brought you here. And while I will give all credit to God, I also believe that our minds also have a lot to do to the question that you asked before. As some people can have the same injuries and some can get better sooner, faster than the other person. I believe that it is all in our minds.
Absolutely. We don't have all the answers. Like you said, maybe I want to be here for 2 weeks, not 6 weeks. And I think it's really important for doctors not to put ceilings on patients because you don't know. And absolutely, it's attitude and persistence and mind that helps patients get through this. So I think it's really important to doctors not to put ceilings on people and tell them, we might say you'll be okay in 2 to 6 weeks or something like that, but not to say you got to stay here for 6 weeks because you left after 2 weeks, right?
I did, and I was going to say that, I think that they do it to give people time so people don't feel stressed out, and I think it's good to give them a range of time, not to say, but I did leave at the 2-week mark, and I still go to the gym. I do not work out as hard as I used to. I don't lift as heavy as I used to, but I still go to the gym.
And I think the two things that allowed you to get better much, much quicker than most people were the very strong mind that you have. And then the other thing was the fact that the doctor said you were in very good physical shape before the accident. So being in good physical shape allowed your body to heal quicker and faster and better. And you were telling this one story that when you were in the rehabilitative care facility for a very short period of time, one of the nurses, when she was leaving her shift to have somebody replace her, told the oncoming nurse something that I thought was very comical. And what was that?
Well, actually, this was in the beginning. They were making me stand up to walk. And I was always pushing. I was always telling them, can you make me do more? So they were making me go upstairs, go up a ramp first, I had to get up. It was standing up, then walk from my bed to the door. And I'm always pushing and pushing. And then they were making me from the door to the nurse's station, which was somewhat down the hallway. And I remember that when I walked, I was starting to walk outside the door, and the nurse said to the physical therapist, keep an eye on her because she's going to leave the building. So, but it was my insistence in getting better. I couldn't let that hold me back and stop me. And there were dark moments. I did feel sad. I mean,
and there was also Starbucks down the street you needed to go to, right?
And then I will tell you, so now, it's been a few years. And sometimes, like telling my story makes me cry. I think about it, makes me cry. The other night, I was reading my medical records, and I cried again. And there are going to be times, but I think that as humans, we have to understand we're allowed to feel sad and feel hurt, but we should not dwell in those moments.
So I think, after experiencing these horrific injuries, being involved in this car accident, going through a near-death experience, and having all this medical care and treatment, it affected you in a very deep and profound way. And one of the things it did for you is it caused you to reevaluate your career path. And subsequent to your accident, you have gotten into a new career. And could you please tell us what the career is, where you work, and what you do?
Yes. I am a paralegal for personal injury. And it helps me because whenever we get clients that have been in a car accident, I'm already on the other side. I already know what they are going through, no matter the severity of their injuries. I know, and I am able to guide them. When I started working, one of the days I had to get a handicap card because it's hard for me to stand up for long periods of time and to walk for too long or go up any stairs. And I remember that this day I had to go to the motor vehicle to get the handicap placard. And I went in and I'm good morning to everybody. And they gave me the placard. And when I came and I sat in my car, without even thinking about it, without feeling it, I just sat down and I just started to cry because when I just looked at the placard in my hand, and it was a realization of I am not the person that I used to be. And I just started to cry right there. And, these are moments that whenever I am talking to clients and they say to me, I cannot do this, or I can no longer do that, or I find myself there and I'm able to empathize with them and I am able to help them and guide them because I know what they are going through.
So this personal injury law firm that you currently work for, this is the same firm that represented you when you were in your accident.
Yes.
It sounds like a terrific law firm. So why don't you give them a shout out?
Yes, what am I supposed to say?
The name of the firm, please, and where they're located.
So yes, I work for Hastings, Gohan and Walsh on Main Street in Richfield, Connecticut.
Yeah, I think what's amazing is if you look at the ads of personal injury lawyers, they always talk about getting the money, right? Money is very important.
Yes.
But you can give them empathy and you can guide them through, which I think is really unique. And I think that's fantastic because you can help clients. You can help clients through the process, not only help them with the money. And I think that really makes a big difference.
And it is true because a lot of the clients, they are feeling lost. They are feeling like nobody listens to them. They are looking for that comfort. No human being wants to be hurt. And every human being that is hurt by the fault of another is going to feel violated. They're going to want justice done by them. And, depending on the injuries, they can get back to their prior state, others will not. And there is no justice, there is no closure, there is no punishment, and there is no amount of money that will ever bring somebody to that place. Our attorneys can get them, some compensation, but along the way to get that compensation, there is some comfort for them, there is some guidance, and there is someone that is listening to them for what they are going through.
Listening. There's someone to listen.
Yeah.
And that is so important, and that really makes a big difference.
Yes.
And I think the thing that's most amazing, one of your gifts is the fact that you are able to listen to individuals that have been involved in an accident. And unlike somebody who has not personally experienced that, I might understand that on an intellectual level, but you understand that on an emotional level that very few people would. And in my 40-year career, I have never represented somebody who has had the injuries that you had that did not die. So any person that contacts our office or that we represent that you speak with, I think they get a great sense of compassion. They feel that, empathy. They understand that you know exactly what they're talking about. And you're also a Spanish speaker, so you're able to relate to our Spanish-speaking clients in that way. And I think it just gives so many people such a very, very deep comfort level. And the other thing you give to them is great hope. If you've been involved in an accident this significant, if you've had injuries this serious, and you've had the type of recovery that you have had, I think you bring great hope to everyone that you speak with. And that's quite a gift. And I want to just personally thank you for that.
Thank you.
Well, it's also, from my perspective as a doctor, one of our jobs is really to hold the patient's hand while they get better by themselves, and empathize with them in the process. And actually, Thoreau once said, a great healer is someone who holds the patient's hand through getting better by themselves. Because a lot of times we really can't. We have to use time.
Yeah.
And time is a great healer. Yeah. Not always what we're doing. We might be doing nothing, but just holding their hand and empathizing them while they get better by themselves is a really big, important part of being a doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the other important thing to note is that you had three surgeons actually, but two of the surgeons who treated you through your entire recovery process independently said to you, we have never had a patient with this significant an injury or injuries that have had this miraculous of a recovery. Independently, these two doctors said that. So, you are really a medical marvel, going from almost being dead at the site of the accident. The accident happened in January. The temperatures were freezing. It took them 45 minutes to physically cut you out of the vehicle with the jaws of life. And when your crushed ankle could not be, extricated from the vehicle, they made the decision that if they didn't get you out of the vehicle within the next several minutes that you would have died. They literally pulled you out and your ankle was crushed.
Yes.
Miraculous.
Yes.
Was there a point in your recovery that you said, I'm going to make it? Or I'm going to walk? Or I'm going to do this? Or it just was a process?
It is a process, but, I've always heard stories of somebody that has lost a limb, and they say, I feel my limb. And there is always that desire. I had this desire to run. I'm not a runner. I don't like running, but I was running before the accident because it was my way of doing cardiovascular exercise. And I was running against my own will. And then this time, I wanted to run. There is no, I remember saying before, I don't feel guilty because I treated my body well. I cannot do a lot of things now, but I do not feel guilty because I was working out, I was eating healthy. And, like everything, there are times when I still want to do things that I used to do. I cannot do them. There are times when it is hard and you just want to quit. You just want to give up and say, I'm not going to try because what's the point? But in those up and downs is when we have to find the strength to say, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to take it one step at a time. I'm going to try today. If it doesn't work today, then I'll deal with it tomorrow. You finish that day, it worked that day. Then it's tomorrow. Okay, today is a little harder than yesterday. Okay, you know what? Let me just try to go through today. If it doesn't happen today, okay, I'll deal with it tomorrow. And that day, like that, for me, I could see, okay, I did it today. Tomorrow comes, okay, I did it today. And then little by little, I just did it. And I'm still doing it.
Yes.
I think a very beautiful story that came out of this was the fact that a friend of yours had set up a GoFundMe page. And the outpouring of love and support and caring was nothing short of amazing. And I wonder if you might tell a couple of stories. I know one person had written you a letter. If you could just tell some stories and how those stories and those, those things that people did for you affected you.
Yeah, so I found out that my coworker set up a GoFundMe page for me. And one of the things that amazed me the most is that people helped. They donated. People that I didn't know donated. And to me, it's like, wow, it's amazing. Then one day I received an envelope at my house with a letter. I believe it's from a man who works in our town. And he said to me, I've been working in Richfield for, I believe it was 22 years at the time. And he said, and I was in a car accident, and I think he had some type of situation. I believe for some reason I understood it was below his waist. And he said, I feel what you feel. I am sorry you went through this. He never gave me his name and in the letter, but I felt so connected to him. And I always said, to this day, I pray from time to time. When I remember, I say, God, I wish I could meet this person, because I found that letter very, very touching. And I still have it. I think I will always have it, because he's somebody that I connected with through a situation. And this was a horrible accident, but it has brought out a lot of positive things. And it has helped me see and meet a lot of wonderful people.
And then something else that has come out of this, which is quite wonderful, is the fact that you are now interested in pursuing potentially a speaking career, and that you're taking classes and are, putting together a talk that deals with your experiences and what you've been through and how you've persevered.
Yes, I am very shy, but I think that, people can benefit from a story like mine, and I want to make it there.
So let me ask you, what message of hope and strength can you offer to our listeners that are facing their own battles, dealing with chronic pain, or feeling overwhelmed by their recovery process?
I will say, don't give up. Try every day. And I know it may sound cliche. We hear a lot of people say there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. Cry when you have to cry. Give yourself time, but do not dwell there. And one thing that I would say to anybody, which it has helped me, is whenever we go through situations, whether it's done by somebody or by nature, make the decision to forgive. Forgive the person that caused this, and sometimes we even have to forgive life. Because, like I said before, there is always a feeling of injustice. Somebody did this to me. Somebody caused me to go through this. And we can cry. We're allowed to cry. We can get angry. We're allowed to get angry. We're not allowed to let it out on anybody, but we're allowed to have those feelings. And at the same time, we have to make the decision to say, this is now, I want to get out of this. And I would say to anyone that goes through hard times, allow yourself to be vulnerable, but get out of that place and, look at your future, have a vision, and walk toward that vision of getting better and doing things perhaps not as you used to, but as your new way of doing them, your new way of life is.
And you had mentioned about it's important to forgive others. And the driver of the vehicle that caused your accident was intending to commit suicide, and he did. And you had told me that one of the turning points for you was forgiving this driver.
Yes, I was very angry because at the age of 44, I found myself in a bed. I couldn't bathe myself. I couldn't move. I couldn't even go to the bathroom by myself. And I was the feelings of anger and hurt, and he died. And at the moment, I remember saying to myself, if he would have been alive, I would have gone after him with the weight of the law. And I was really angry. And one day I made a decision, and I said, God, I know that I have to forgive him. And I held his mother responsible as well. So I made the decision, and I forgave him. I said in a prayer, I said his full name, and I said, I forgive him, and I will never have any feelings of resentment, of rancor toward him. And I did the same with his mother. I said her full name and last name, and I said, I forgive her, and I will never have ill feelings toward her, and I will never say anything. And to this day, I am able to think about both of them, and I don't have any resentment, not even toward life. I decided to forgive. I couldn't understand why this happened to me, but I said, I forgive life, and I forgive, and I'm moving forward.
We want to thank you for sharing your story, because I know it's so incredibly difficult, and that was evidenced by, the emotions that you experienced here today. And we're very grateful that you could be that vulnerable with us, because our hope is, as Dr. Jeff had indicated, that this is heard by one person and that it touches them and changes their life in a positive way. And your story is so inspirational. And I just want to thank you for coming here and sharing this very, very valuable information with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for an incredible story, incredible courage. And that's our goal at Justice in Scrubs, is to, through education and experiences, we empower our listeners to be positive and learn and help them navigate the medical and legal systems. Thank you.